Before we continue, if you haven't watched part 1, pause this. Go watch it first, because what happens next will only hit you fully if you know what Chika already survived. Still here? Good. Let's continue. That Thursday night, after the crowd went home, after Mama Tammy's hug, after Ngozi's tears, Chika finally sat down alone. The salon was quiet. Too quiet. Her phone still sat on the counter. The notification she'd been avoiding all day. She stared at it for a long time. Then, she opened it. We regret to inform you. She didn't need to read the rest. 5 banks, 5 applications, 5 rejections. Same result. Different letterhead. She sat down slowly.
She thought about Lagos, about Ifeoma, about Blessing, about the warning they gave her. Port Harcourt, na surprise package. They weren't lying. She thought about her father, fixing generators for other people, while Diesel quietly drained her own business. She thought about Uncle Iby's face, right before he said, "You'll regret this." Maybe he was right. Maybe this whole thing had been a mistake. For the first time since returning home, Chika allowed herself to imagine it. Closing Divine Roots. Packing up. Going back to Lagos. Back to something that worked. Back to somewhere that made sense. She reached for her phone. Started typing a message to Ifeoma. "I think I'm done. I think I want to come back." Her thumb hovered over the send button.
Then she stopped. Because right there, on her desk, sat the brown envelope, thick with receipts. Every levy, every payment, every proof that she hadn't quit yet. And beside it, a small note Ngozi had left that morning, before the chaos even started. "Madame, thank you for training me. Nobody in my family sabi this work before now." She read it twice. Then a third time. And something inside her chest shifted. Quietly, she deleted the message to Ifeoma. Not because the fear disappeared. It didn't. But because, for the first time, she asked herself a different question. Not, should I give up? But, who do I know that has already solved this? There was a man Chika kept running into for months, but never really sat down with. Coach Austin. He ran PH Digital Growth Agency, a small office 2 streets away from Divine Roots. He'd offered her a free consultation twice. Both times, she smiled, said, "I'll come by," and never did. Not because she didn't respect him, but because, in her mind, Instagram posts, marketing, and business growth strategies felt like luxuries. Luxuries for businesses that had already solved diesel, taxes, and difficult landlords. She believed she had bigger fires to put out. Or so she thought. But that Friday morning, exhausted, Chika managed a tired smile. "Coach, I need advice. I've tried everything I know. The business is still struggling." Coach Austin leaned back in his chair. "Everything you know or everything Lagos taught you? Chika frowned. I don't understand the difference. Coach Austin smiled gently. Lagos taught you how to run what's inside your shop. He paused. Nobody taught you how to survive what's outside it. And here in Port Harcourt, outside your shop is where the real business actually happens. Chika looked at him. What do you mean? I mean, you're fighting NEPA alone. You're fighting the taxman alone. You're fighting your landlord alone. You're fighting the bank alone. Then he leaned forward. Have you ever asked yourself why the other shops on your road survive the exact same wahala, while you're the one drowning in it? Chika thought for a moment. Because they've been here longer? Coach Austin slowly shook his head. No. Because they're not fighting it alone. He looked directly at her. Remember when Uncle Ibe tried to throw you out of your own shop? Who actually saved you? Government? The bank? Silence. No. It was the street. It was people you'd already been kind to before you ever needed them back. Chika sat quietly. Then she admitted, I did that by accident, Coach. I wasn't trying to build anything. I was just being decent to people. Coach Austin immediately pointed at her. Firm. Certain. Then Coach Austin didn't lower his finger. Everything that almost killed your business, power, tax, security, supply, the bank, na the same weapon go save you if you use am well. Then he said the sentence Chika would never forget. But you must stop the fight alone. She left his office without a business plan, without a miracle loan, without a magic solution. But she left with something far more valuable. A completely different question. Not, how do I survive this system? But, how do I stop being the only person fighting it? The diesel problem hadn't gone away. It never really does in Port Harcourt. But this time, Chika approached it differently. Instead of carrying the burden alone, she invited 3 neighboring business owners. The boutique owner, the woman who ran the eatery, and Chibueze, the young phone repair technician. She looked at them and said, every one of us, they run separate generator, separate diesel cost, separate wahala whenever it spoil. She took a breath. What if we combine? One bigger generator, shared fuel, shared maintenance, shared cost. The 3 of them looked at one another. Nobody spoke. Not immediately. The boutique owner folded her arms. And if the generator spoil, who go fix am? Chika already had an answer. We open a joint account. Everybody contributes every month. I'll keep the records. Everybody sees every transaction. Nothing hidden. It sounded simple. 4 shop owners called the technician. 4 businesses shared the repair bill. One crack was finally beginning to close. But another challenge was waiting. Supply. Products arrived late. Shipments were damaged. Roadblocks delayed deliveries. Fuel prices pushed transport costs higher every month. More than once, Chika opened a delivery box only to find broken bottles inside. Then came another headache. Getting a refund meant waiting weeks, sometimes longer.
The next morning, Chika picked up her phone. Not to call a supplier, not to complain, but to call 2 other natural hair salons nearby. Salons she had always seen as competitors. If we combine our orders, she told them, same supplier, same delivery, split 3 ways, we qualify for bulk pricing. She paused. And if one shipment gets delayed, at least it's not just one business suffering. There was silence. In another season of her life, that silence would have frightened her. This time, she waited. Then one salon owner said, "Let's try it." A second voice followed. "Me too." Just like that, competition began turning into cooperation.
Slowly, what had once been rivalry became a quiet alliance. Ordering together meant lower prices. Shared deliveries meant shared risk. One delayed shipment no longer shut down an entire week's business. For the first time, Chika stopped buying extra stock out of fear. She ordered with confidence. Not because the roads had improved, not because fuel became cheaper, not because suppliers suddenly became honest, but because she wasn't carrying the uncertainty alone anymore. One lesson after another, Coach Austin's words kept proving themselves true. Every problem became smaller the moment more people carried it together. But there was one challenge that no amount of bulk buying could solve: fear.
Security had always been the crack Chika talked about the least, even to her own mother, because saying it out loud made it feel real. Some evenings, she closed the salon early, not because of curfew, because of stories. Some were true, some were rumors. Almost all of them were believed. Twice that year, gunshots nearby sent every client running. Hair half finished, aprons abandoned. Nobody cared. They just wanted to get home alive. Then, one evening, while a client was inside receiving treatment, someone broke into her car. A phone was stolen. A handbag disappeared. Chika lost more than a customer that day. She lost trust. And fear is one of the most expensive business expenses anyone can ever pay.
Fear changes everything. It changes your opening hours, your closing hours, the number of staff you're willing to hire, even how much you're willing to grow. Because growth makes you more visible. More customers, more cash, more attention, more risk. But something had quietly changed on that street. Ever since the day neighbors gathered to defend Chika from Uncle IB, people had started looking out for one another. Without meetings, without announcements, without anyone making rules. One night, a stranger stood outside Divine Roots. Too long. Watching. Waiting. Ngozi noticed him first. She didn't panic. She simply looked around. Within minutes, 3 neighboring shop owners quietly stepped outside. Nobody confronted the man. Nobody shouted. Nobody threatened him. They simply stood there, visible, present, watching back. After a few moments, the stranger turned and walked away. Chika never found out what he intended to do. She never needed to, because for the first time, she realized something. She wasn't the only person protecting that salon anymore. Sometimes, your greatest security system isn't a fence. It's a community that refuses to look away.
If you've ever run a small business, you already know. Sometimes your biggest breakthrough doesn't come from a bank. It comes from a conversation you almost missed. One afternoon, while getting her hair done, a client casually mentioned something. She worked in a government office. "You know," she said, "the state government done launch small grant scheme for women-owned businesses." Then she added something, almost as an afterthought. "But most people never register their businesses properly, so them no qualify." Chika froze.
That single conversation stayed with Chika. She kept asking herself one question. How many opportunities have I missed simply because I've been too busy surviving? That same week, she finally registered Divine Roots properly, something she had postponed for more than a year. Not because she didn't believe in it, but because every day had been about putting out another fire. She didn't receive the government grant immediately, but she gained something just as valuable: a legally registered business, proper documentation.
Just when it looked like the worst was finally behind her, it wasn't. 14 months after that painful Thursday night, disaster struck again. A fire broke out 2 shops away. An electrical fault, made even worse by a diesel container stored too close to a generator. The flames spread frighteningly fast. People screamed. Traders rushed outside. By the time firefighters gained control, 3 businesses had already been destroyed. Divine Roots escaped the flames, but not the damage. Smoke filled the salon. The front window shattered during the chaos. The entire street was sealed off. For 3 days, nobody was allowed to open for business. In one terrible week, Chika lost almost an entire month's income.
Ovation stood among the wreckage. His voice trembled. "Madam, after everything, after Uncle IB, after the bank, after all you've survived, now this." For an entire day, Chika barely spoke. Ngozi later admitted she genuinely believed this was the end, that her boss would finally close Divine Roots forever. Honestly, it looked like the logical decision. Too many setbacks, too many losses, too much pain. It felt as though life kept asking the same cruel question: how much more can you take? But something had quietly changed since that Thursday night when she almost sent that message back to Lagos. This time, she wasn't standing alone. Months earlier, without fully realizing it, Chika had built something far stronger than a salon. She had built people. The 4-shop generator cooperative already had an emergency fund, created for moments exactly like this. The buying cooperative immediately supplied replacement products on credit. No paperwork, no arguments, just trust. Trust built through months of shared orders. Coach Austin organized a community cleanup. Nobody was forced to come, nobody was paid. Yet trader after trader arrived, sweeping, scrubbing smoke from the walls, repainting the front of Divine Roots. What would have taken one exhausted business owner weeks was becoming possible because dozens of hands carried the burden together.
Coach Austin rolled up his sleeves, picked up another damaged carton, and smiled. You think community is something you build once, then forget? He shook his head. No. Community pays you back exactly when you're about to fall. Chika stood silently, looking around, watching neighbors clean a business that technically wasn't theirs. Then she whispered something her grandmother used to say. Asawana. Coach Austin looked up. What did you say? She smiled. Asawana spirit. It means you don't fall down and stay down. You fall, you stand up, you keep moving. No matter how many times the ground tries to take you.
6 days later, Divine Roots reopened. Not perfect, not fully repaired, but open. That was the lesson Chika finally understood. Persistence was never about never falling. Everybody falls. Everybody struggles. Everybody has moments when giving up feels easier than trying again. Real persistence is something different. It's building your life, your relationships, your reputation, strong enough that when life knocks you down, something is already there to catch you. And Chika had unknowingly spent months building exactly that, without calling it a strategy, without writing it into a business plan, without even realizing it had a name. Months later, Coach Austin sat quietly inside the newly repainted Divine Roots. Not talking, just watching. Outside, 4 businesses now shared one powerful generator. Near the entrance, a trainee swept the floor with confidence. By the door, a government official chatted politely with a client. Not demanding levies, not causing trouble. Simply talking. Coach Austin smiled. You know, you've built something that other business owners can actually learn. There's a pattern here. Chika looked up. A pattern? Yes. Everything that almost destroyed this business. You stopped fighting it alone. She leaned forward, waiting. Without realizing it, Coach Austin continued. Every crisis you faced, you turned it into something that benefited other people first. He paused. Every small opportunity you had to help someone, you helped. And now, the whole street protects you because of it. Another pause. Then he looked out the window. Even when the fire came, you didn't quit. The room became quiet. Chika slowly repeated everything in her mind. Collaboration, learning, impact, persistence. She looked up.
almost whispering. Collaboration. Learning. Impact. Persist.
Coach Austin nodded. Exactly. Not a strategy you designed in an office, a survival pattern you lived through. One crisis at a time. One relationship at a time. One difficult lesson after another. Until one day, looking back, the pattern became impossible to ignore. It had always been there, hidden inside every setback, every rejection, every difficult decision, every act of kindness. Sometimes the biggest discoveries don't happen when you're planning the future. They happen when you stop, turn around, and finally understand your past. But there was still one unfinished chapter. The bank. Remember those 5 painful rejections? The story wasn't over.
You're probably wondering about the bank. 5 applications, 5 rejection letters. Remember? On her 6th application, Chika walked into the bank carrying something completely different. Not just hope, evidence. 2 years of properly documented revenue, a formally registered business, a cooperative business structure, even a reference letter from a local councillor's office. Ironically, the same office that once only knew her because of levies. This time, the bank still didn't approve everything she requested. But something important had changed. They approved her.
The loan wasn't enormous, but it was enough. Enough to install a second wash station. Enough to expand. Enough to prove something Chika had spent years wondering. Sometimes, the system doesn't notice you until you've built enough around yourself that it has no choice but to look. And Uncle Ibe? He still owned several shops on that same road. But people noticed something. He became much more careful, much more respectful, especially when dealing with his tenants. Because reputations travel. And now, everyone knew exactly who Chika had become. Not just a salon owner. A woman the entire street stood behind.
None of this erased the hardship. Diesel still cost money. Government officials still visited. Port Harcourt didn't suddenly become an easy place to run a business. But Chika stopped waiting for easy. She only needed it to become survivable. Then, little by little, survivable became winnable. Today, Divine Roots has become one of the busiest unisex salons along the Chinda Waterlines corridor. The Generator Cooperative has grown. Not 4 businesses anymore, 7. The Buying Cooperative now negotiates directly with suppliers in Lagos, securing prices that individual shops could never have achieved alone.
The monthly traders meeting, the one Chika used to ignore, is now something she helps lead, side by side with Coach Austin. Ngozi, the young apprentice who once thanked Chika with a handwritten note, now owns her own braiding business, just 2 streets away. Trained, encouraged, and inspired by a woman who once almost gave up on that same road. Then Chika realized something. The 4 words that changed her life didn't come from a textbook, not from a business seminar, not from Lagos, not even from a government program.
They were born inside the struggle itself. Collaboration, learning, impact, persistence. Clip wasn't a plan Chika arrived with. It was the plan Port Harcourt forced her to build. One painful lesson at a time. One relationship at a time. One setback at a time. And maybe that's how the strongest businesses are really built. Not by avoiding hardship, but by allowing hardship to teach you something that success never could. Then Chika looked around her salon. The people, the customers, the neighbors, the businesses growing together.
If Chika's story taught you anything today, let it be this. The system that almost broke you may already be showing you exactly how to beat it. You just have to stop fighting it alone. Think about your own journey. Which part of Clip are you already practicing without even realizing it? Collaboration? Learning? Impact? Or persistence? Sometimes,
And if this is the first story you've watched on this channel, remember, Chika's road is only one road, one city. Walk 5 minutes in almost any direction. Lagos, Aba, Kano, Enugu, or anywhere else across Nigeria, and you'll meet someone fighting a different version of the same battle. A different name, a different business, a different dream. But the same pattern, the same clip, waiting to be discovered. If this story inspired you, please like this video, share it with someone building a business, and tell us in the comments which part of Clip has helped you the most. And don't forget to subscribe, because once you begin to see this pattern, you'll start seeing it everywhere. Until next time, remember this: the strongest businesses are never the ones that avoid struggle. They're the ones that refuse to stay down.